Greetings, traders. So it is Sunday, the 9th of October, 2022, and I'm recording this for the week commencing Monday, the 10th of October, 2022. And so just having a look at news coming out this week, I'm focusing predominantly on, first of all, cable-related stuff. There's just a lot of UK news coming out, and I definitely want to know if we're going to see a bit of a turnaround in terms of GBP strength. But also, we've got PPI, we've also got FOMC and CPI numbers coming out of the US, and we've currently got quite a strong US dollar. I'm going to go to the charts in a moment and show you that. We've currently got quite a strong US dollar, and these will definitely be relevant to that. And of course, there's fears of inflation and recession as well. So these are the ones where I expect that added volatility. I'm not looking to trade them. I'm looking to potentially just be aware, make sure stop losses are in place, or taking profit, or not trading around those periods, and just see how the market reacts to them. So that being said, let's go across and have a look at the charts. So starting off here with the dollar index has had a good strong reaction against this close to the 115 level. Let's call it 114.50. We've currently got quite a strong bullish candle here. So a very quick retracement. Excuse me. You can see we've almost got a little bit sort of the curve of here is starting to angle up and going a little bit parabolic. We had a very small retracement. The bare minimum requirement, we finished up immediately with a bullish candle. We've got a bullish uptrending MACD. We are overextended. We are in unusual times, so that is the case. We had a pullback and the market has already started to head higher. So out the gates, my expectation is to see this continue, therefore, but what I want to see is how does it react when it gets up to these levels here, or does it push through to 115 and keep going? Yes, we're overextended. I mean, I think at this point it's safer to just assume it's going to keep going and wait and see how it reacts. As I said, it was a very small minimum requirement, sort of minimum retracement, and now it looks like it wants to continue. So my expectation, at least for the early part of this week, is to see it continue up to that 114.50 and onwards. And therefore, you can see here with euro dollar also that starting to head lower. I'll be looking for trading opportunities in line with that moving a little bit low. You can see that bearish candle right off a level of support, testing that as resistance, almost just tapping that parity and producing that bearish candle. All of that just inherently just expressing weakness, and therefore I expect it to just head down towards these lows, and then I'll deal with it with whatever it does. The same thing here, cable actually pushing all the way back up, producing exactly the same kind of thing. So you can see how similar the behaviors are here. Same with Aussie dollar. It's also looking very, very weak. In fact, this has already started to push below those lows. I expect these to continue heading lower. That dollar very much in control. You can see here as well, very small retracement. I mean, just ridiculous. It's so overextended, and it couldn't even do a bit more of that. Wouldn't even do, I don't even think it was a 382. I think it did literally just a 23% retracement. Dollar yen is also starting to push up here, starting to look as though it wants to continue pushing up and pushing through these levels and continuing on up from there. It's also very overextended, but again, it's tied to these unusual times that we live in. And dollar Swissy here is certainly heading back up towards parity here, looking as though it wants to test that level again. All of that looking relatively bullish. Dollar CAD also not as bullish, but also it's got a strong level there at 1.4, and it's got some room to continue up to the upside. So that's really what I'm expecting there. So if all of those looks very much as though there's no reason to doubt the dollar is in control for now. The question is, where will the week end? Will we see, if there's a rejection of those, if we go back to this, will we see possibly euro double bottom and then finish to the upside? Will we get any surprises, or will we just continue to come down towards the lows and push through on that? So for now, Plan A is to just trade in line with that stronger dollar. Interesting enough, just quickly looking at the ruble, just a bit of a spike in it, obviously with regards to what's going on with the war in Ukraine. Not expecting anything from that at this point in time. And euro Swissy is still attempting to turn around. If you look at these bullish candles, it really is trying to break and head back up towards parity and potentially over. It's just struggling a bit with a bit of that weaker dollar and that Swissy strength as well. So this is just continuing to obviously cause a bit of chaos here. So for me, I'm looking to see if we can break it back up above that 0.98 level and then start to head back up towards parity. But yeah, I mean, we're very bullish here. There's no doubt both of these are bullish, and therefore it is looking for either a consolidation or a change in trend, and I'd expect to see that happen soon. Okay, looking at gold. So gold did a really nice, decent retracement, but it has immediately encountered resistance at the previous highs. If we look at the market structure here, and unable to do that. So this is effectively a double top within a downtrend. And so again, it's back down in a potential area where it might be able to find support. But if we're going to get that stronger dollar, then I'm going to expect it to just push through and keep heading lower. So this will sort of be that last bit of stand. If we start to push through this level, start to head below that sort of 1685, then I think it's fair to say it's just going to continue back down towards those lows. And it was a nice decent retracement here on the weekly. So bearish candle here the coming week could indicate a continuation down. Nothing much. So what I'm really looking to see is, do we finish with a bullish candle end of October? So in order for that to happen, I'd have to see a turnaround happening here, and we're going to just have to see how that unfolds. Let's look at a few of the other metals. You can see copper also taking strain there as well, looking lots of exhaustion there, looking like it wants to continue hitting low. Let's look at natural gas. So natural gas within that uptrend is in a really good area for it to turn around in if it's going to continue back up. So I'm not expecting this to head too much lower at this time. I expect it to see if it's going to try and turn around this week. So it's a bit range bound with these highs up here at 719 and these down at 629. So I want to see which side breaks first. Moving on to crude oils. Crude oils obviously very, very strong recovery. But you know what? Within the monthly trend, this is very normal. We see price pull back, produce that bullish candle and start to take off. Very strong, healthy trend up until that point. We've had a good, strong correction back into the moving averages. We've produced a bullish candle. We've got a swing low. All of this indicates that the trend should be expected to continue to the upside. And so that's what I'm expecting, whether it happens over the next month or 2 or 3. That is certainly the direction. I think I'm a little bit overdue for a retracement here on the 4-hour, but I really like the idea of looking for buys here, especially if we can get a retracement back down to 88.80 and then looking for buying opportunities, for day trading opportunities, even on the 4-hour, possibly even on the daily. But this is looking way more bullish than bearish. I'm just looking for a bit of a correction at this point in time. So it may continue up for a couple of days before deciding to come down. We'll see how that goes, but that's certainly looking more bullish than bearish. Brent as well, also looking super, super bullish at this time. And it's really the monthly chart that gives a clear explanation of it, just resuming that longer term trend. Sugar also looking extremely bullish here. So within this range on the monthly, that's a really strong bullish takeoff candle. And so I'm expecting that to continue to push back up towards 20. That looking pretty good there. Coffee is just a mess right now. It has no clear direction. It's still range bound. I don't expect anything from this anywhere. It's going to bob up and down in this area. Let's look at wheat. Wheat is back down at a previous level of resistance. Doesn't mean it won't possibly or won't potentially find some support in this area, but both the weekly and the monthly are not really offering much. We've got a nice little swing low here, but we haven't broken above the high of September. So what I'll be looking for this week is, do we get a bullish recovery off this level and head on back up to these highs, or do we start to fall through and break these lows? That will start to give a lot more clarity in these other charts. And by other charts, I mean other time frames. Cotton continuing to pull down, but let's be fair, it is here at a previous level of historical level, and therefore I need to see if it's going to find some support. But I have to say this is looking more bearish than bullish, so I'm expecting this to, if potentially, look, I have to see a turnaround immediately. Otherwise, this is looking more likely that it's going to start to break down and head down a little bit lower. Okay, let's move on to the global indices. So very similar to what we see with euro dollar. Let's just go back to that. Very similar shape. It's driven by the dollar at this point in time. And so again, we've got a bit of a bullish candle here, and hopefully it doesn't finish bearishly, but it could, of course, obviously it could do that. And this week we saw an attempt to come up and hit this level of support and found resistance there, started to push back. And so I'm expecting, again, my approach is going to be similar to what I saw with, or what I spoke about with the major currencies. I'm expecting a move to come down to test these levels. What I want to see, or what I'm curious about, is, will we get a double bottom? Will there be a reaction off that? Will we finish higher by the end of the week, or will we break through this low and finish down? If we start to break through here, then I think it's reasonable to expect an acceleration, and therefore some of the moves could be quite frightening. When I say frightening, what I mean is they'll be quite big and quite aggressive, similar to these kinds of moves if we start to break through these lows, because in terms of the bigger picture, that's where it starts to trip a set of alarms for some of the bigger institutions, and they may well be looking to exit their positions. As I said, we're still in an area where it would be very acceptable for the major US indices to find support. So that's why I'm just going to not assume that it's necessarily just going to fall a lot faster. I just want to see how it reacts at these levels. This will be the same for the S&P. You can see this area I've highlighted in blue, really good area for this. If we go and have a look at it from a longer perspective, quarterly, for example, we're in a great area for price to turn around here within the bigger moves. And so I'm going to remain optimistic on that and see how that goes. We're also on a bit of a trend line here, just in terms of this being the sort of median average of price. And I want to see what happens with that. We've got the Nasdaq as well. It's going to be the same approach. So shorter term, I'm looking for moves to continue back down to these levels of support. And then I want to see how they react against that. Let's have a look at the mini Russell. Also, they're trying to maintain and hold the line here. We've created those swing lows, but we didn't fare well by the end of the week. So if we start to break below these lows, then I expect the market to head down. But we're still in an area where we could get a bit of double bounce. So I'm curious to see what happens on Monday. So also here with the FTSE, also a bit of a drop and finishing up with quite a bullish candle. The current monthly candle's quite bullish. The DAX as well. Also, we've got a bit of a move below, but then we finish with a bullish candle. So currently, these markets are resisting as much as they can, and that doesn't mean they're going to fail. It just means that, for example, here, look at the Nikkei. There's that strong bullish engulfing candle. It's been moving sideways for a long time. So there are quite a few markets that really are trying to stand their ground, and they may well manage to do that. We're also finishing up here with the ASX, where we can see what appears to be a bit of a double bottom. It's too close to say anything for sure because we're still in the middle of October, and therefore we need to see how October finishes. So yeah, I'm going to be keeping an eye on these ones as well. Do they manage to maintain their bullishness? But likely, if we see the US markets do some quite big moves, then it makes sense we're going to see that follow through on the other markets, non-US markets. So moving away from the indices and starting to look at individual equities, let's have a look at this Glencore. Doing really well, testing up resistance here. This looks as though it has good potential to tap 530. The question is, what is going to happen when it touches this level of resistance again? You can see it setting up here with a bullish candle. It has some clear resistance here. It's got to get through that, and then it's going to battle resistance almost immediately again. So there's battles ahead of it, but it's holding so far. Tesco are continuing to sort of fall quite aggressively to the downside, down towards these lows here. So I expect that to continue down. We've got Amex. This is, as a monthly candles go, that's a very bearish continuation. So I would have expected a break below the low of that and the last weekly candle as well, finishing quite bearish of the previous week. I would have expected it to actually keep testing below those lows. So I'm very impressed so far that it's managed to stay where it is. So again, early part of this week, I'll be looking to see if we drop below that 134 or do we manage to push a little bit higher. So if in terms of sort of options trading, it does make it a little bit higher risk in terms of any of these. So it's a real possibility we could fall through that level of support rather than hold it. Okay, let's go and have a look at Apple. Apple overall, and this is something I think we have to talk about, is just this general lower highs with strong rejection. So we moved down, strong recovery when the market thought it had its first opportunity to recover, followed by that strong rejection and then a solid bearish candle to the downside. So this is not a sign of strength, unfortunately. So the question is, and this area has been marked, that's a previous level of resistance. Can it hold as support? We're going to have to find out, but there is no doubt there's lots of pressure on that, and this week could be the week that it pushes through those ones. Arc Innovation, right down on its belly, so to speak, at the bottom of this area here. We've seen that level of support in the past, and that's where we are at the moment. Question is, can that support hold or not? And so you can see where this is going when we start to head towards cryptos as well. AT&T has really kind of just tried in this area. I actually thought at some point it was doing quite well, and it has just completely started to push through, break, and go down towards these old lows here. So there's not much strength showing up in that. Berkshire Hathaway, which should be doing relatively well, coping well. It's got a bit of a double bottom here, so I'm just going to place a minor little area of support, just a little band there to see how we do over time. But again, it's also under pressure. Look at that failure, that rejection below that level of support. This is really it. So I want to see how they sort of start to break below these lows, possibly set up a few alerts just to see if they all happen on a similar day, if there's anything that could push them over the edge. BP, and obviously you can know some of those energy markets are doing well, but BP here is attempting to break out to the upside. That's 32.15, and I expect oil is looking really bullish. I think if that's going to be the case, it's reasonable to expect, look at Exxon as well, has managed to push through that. It's reasonable to expect BP to push higher as well. Coca-Cola is similar. This is very similar, obviously, to Berkshire Hathaway. It's a big component. This is looking that's going to head down towards the 52 levels. So if I was an individual with some spare cash lying around looking to get my hands on some blue chip companies, it's starting to look more and more like 'tis the season to go shopping. Okay, FedEx. This was a new one as well. Just having had, because I didn't do last week's webinar, I apologize. I mean last week's recording, and so I missed commenting on quite a few things because there was stuff that was really worthwhile chatting about. Anyway, so we've broken through this level here. We've headed quite down, quite a strong breakout, and now we're back in towards these price areas here. So again, after a big move like that, I expect it to slow down a little bit into these areas and not do. Possibly just try and tread water. General Motors in a strong area for a double bottom. If it breaks through here, I expect a bigger move. So it's going to try. Some of these are definitely at a key level with some bullish candles. They may well genuinely attempt to stay above those levels here. I mean, JP Morgan Chase here as well, for example, it's at that level. You can see where it is, fell through and closed below the lows, and then didn't follow through or hasn't followed through the following week. So it's not necessarily pure weakness all the way through. There are certain weeks where it appears to be that's in control. And given the fact that the dollar started to take over last week, we still managed to close near those highs. So that's interesting. It means that it's not complete weakness. So we've got Facebook as well starting to hit down really to kind of, now we're starting to get in, I think, some of these historic lows. We're starting to head back towards 2016, and I expect it to stay in that area for now. Morgan Stanley coming down, possibly down to these recent monthly lows. Again, I mean, small moves overall when you look at this. That's just the distance. I mean, that was a range of about 8 points over that. What was that one? 6.4 points. And over here, we had a very small candle. So yes, it's big. We could see some. Yes, it's possible we could see some bigger moves. But taking the fact that last week it really desperately tried to hold where it is, I want to be optimistic and see that it. Let's see if we can do that. Here we're struggling. Netflix struggling with the ceiling. But again, and you can see it coming back into the moving averages. It could be preparing to continue to the downside from here. Again, a lot of people who only follow one individual stock are like Tesla, for example, or maybe just Bitcoin, for example. They're in a tunnel vision. They're not aware that a lot of this is a market-wide or technology-wide or sector-wide kind of thing. So yeah, these are under pressure, and it isn't always a reflection of them. So NVIDIA, right back down. I mean, NVIDIA was such a star performer, and I expect it to make a relatively good rebound as well. So we'll see how it holds at this level, but you can kind of see where it is at this point in time on the 50-period moving average. It is a little bit like the Alamo, kind of a last stand. We'll see how it does. PayPal, similar to Netflix, right down at these lows, struggling on that monthly to get back up above those highs. So really need to see a boost. Possibly, could there be a surprise this week? Well, there's nothing that I could see that could produce a surprise. I think for now I'm just going to play it as it lies and see how that goes. You can see a lot of them look like they just want to keep continuing. They just want to creep lower as they go. Spotify is going to be the same one right down here, testing those new lows. Look at this, pushing lower and lower and lower. So the last time this was this low, oh, we don't even have history for that. Okay, so that's lows. And again, it seems like it reflects badly on Spotify, but there's several here that are not that different. NVIDIA, Meta, ARC, they're in similar positions under the same kind of pressure. Okay, Tesla's starting to head back down towards these old lows here. So the question is, will all of them, will they stall at these lows? Maybe will we get a bit of a bounce off that, or will they just slice their way through and then start to head down towards those next levels? And I think that if that does happen, that's going to put a bit of proper fear into the markets, because everybody is kind of like, okay, we've had a bit of a correction, and then okay, we've had another bit of a correction, but if we start to fall through again, it's going to put some real fear into things. But it doesn't necessarily mean it has to happen. We might find a bit of a flaw there. Vanguard as well, coming back into its 50-period moving average. You can see how it's done that in the past. The 50-period moving average for a few of these on their monthly historically are good areas for price to turn around, and they may well do that. Right, let's have a look at the 10-year T-notes. Also looking bearish. I don't expect any change here. I expect these to continue hitting lower. So for anyone who trades those, there could be some higher probability setups there. Looking like they're very much going to continue down. We'll see how they react when they get to these levels here, because I'm just going to mark that, for example, because this is the kind of thing where you might find that sort of support. And again, that would have to be something that happens across all the other markets as well. Let's finish up with cryptos. Cryptos, excuse me, are just generally swimming around these areas. Again, they have the same levels nearby. Are they going to get pushed through them, or are they going to manage to rebound? Ethereum, at this moment, that just looks more and more like a bear flag, so I'm expecting that to start to trend lower. So we've got a possible level here of resistance that might find a support, but I'm expecting this to head back down towards these old lows at the very least. Let's look at Cardano starting to dip below those lows, back down at those all-time lows, looking very bearish here on the weekly. That, I'm afraid, is, well, there's bullish divergence. I take that back. I was about to say this is a particularly bearish pattern in price, but there's strong bullish divergence there, indicating there will be a false breakout or a rejection. That's very, very strong. There's no bearishness in that at all. That's interesting to me. Or that little bit hinting at a possibility for some optimism. Hey, that would be interesting. And here you can see the last 3 monthly candles not really going anywhere when it comes to Binance. So all of them under similar pressure, ladies and gents. You can see here again also creeping right down near the lows, but also bullish divergence. So again, there's 3 possible outcomes, guys. We see a follow through on where we're going. We continue to see that dollar strength, or we get a bit of a bounce possibly throughout the week, a surprise bounce. That's what I find interesting. And or obviously, as finally we start to just we have a surprise panic and we see some bigger moves. Let's hope that we get that surprise bounce and a bit of a shift in direction. Right now, the trend is looking very much the same as it was in recent months, looking more bearish than bullish. Thank you very much. Listen, have a great week and trade carefully. Thank you, ladies and gents.